Welcome to Sharing My Truth with Mel and Susie, the uncensored version, where we bear it all.
We do.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And welcome back. Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome back to Share My Truth Pod. Go and give this pod a little 5 stars and comment and like on this pod. And if you go to Share My Truth Pod on the Instas or TikTok or anywhere else, you can find us on social. You can DM us, check us.
Not anything to drink.
I wish I did, to be honest. I could blame it on that. Boozy lunch, but that's about it. And if you go to sharemytruth.com, you can also go leave us a voicemail. Not many people know this. You can go leave us a voicemail. We want to hear your little voice. You can send us an email, but really, we just want to hear from you. Share truth. Send us a funny story.
Yeah.
And we want to hang out. We want to chat.
We do.
Hey, babes.
Hello, Danny.
How are ya?
Fabulous.
Oh my God. Don't get me started.
Fabulous.
You look fabulous.
Oh, thank you.
I know we're not filming this episode,
really.
but you look hot. Just for everyone's imagination right now, Mel is like wearing lingerie and it's super nasty.
Yeah, it definitely wouldn't be doing that.
Oh. All right, Mel. What
Yes.
are we even talking about today, if I can speak
Yeah,
properly?
this is a good question. So I've seen this written about quite a few times now,
Mhm.
and the subject is,
Yeah.
are you ready?
Yes, of course.
Tolyamory, not polyamory.
I'm like, I was gonna say, I know what polyamory is.
Tolyamory with a T.
Polyamory.
Exactly.
Got it.
And what it is it's you're in a relationship and you know your partner is cheating and you tolerate it.
No.
And it's called polyamory. So you're not in an open relationship.
No.
You haven't sort of discussed it. I obviously don't know whether there are levels of this, but you just tolerate, hence the polyamory.
So this is not E&M, which is ethical non-monogamy. This is
No.
the opposite of that.
Yeah. Like, you just
know,
go,
but or does the other person know that you know?
well, I don't know. I think there's probably a range.
And why are we tolerating this? Is it because the other person has money and they're taking care of you? Or is it just because, I don't know, what's
Well,
the
I think
point, kid?
To me, it's absolutely hilarious that they're writing about it now because this has been going on since the dawn of time.
I feel like even more
This is-
so before people could get divorces and all
This
these
isn't
things.
new, for God's sake.
Yeah.
You know, my grandmother did this. Except my grandfather
Go
had
granny.
the decency to put my grandmother in one house and his mistress in another house.
Fabulous.
I mean, that's decent, you know?
is that decent?
No. But you know, she knew. So I'll take my grandmother as a case in point.
Granny O.
She was delighted that he would spend actually pretty much all of his time with said mistress.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what her name was, because she didn't have to deal with him or spend any time with him or sleep with him.
Right.
So for her, it was very convenient.
But he didn't want to divorce her.
Well, in those days, they didn't.
You didn't,
really.
exactly.
They got married when they were very young. I think my grandma was like 18 or 19.
I would be fucking loving it too if I didn't like
Yeah,
him. I'd be
yeah.
like, fucking great.
Yeah, so he wasn't there. And then, unfortunately, she died. And then he came back and my grandmother was beside herself.
Oh yeah, the mistress died.
She
Mistress
wasn't
died.
happy at all.
That's too
But
bad.
I think lots of couples do this. Obviously, it probably is very frequently women
Who are
tolerating knowing that the man is going off.
Why do you think that?
Why do I think that's the case?
Mm-hmm.
I obviously don't think only men cheat. I think that's what we think. But
But
that's
why are
absolute
women only
bullshit.
the ones that are tolerating it? Do you think?
I mean, maybe men do too if they really love their wives. But I think if they know that person needs something else that they can't give them
Mhm.
or don't want to give them, which obviously is sex or intimacy or whatever it is, and they can't give it to them, so they're kind of happy for them to go off and have it but stay together.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is a whole range. I think there are people who just know but decide to just kind of be in denial.
Mm-hmm.
And can kind of tolerate it. And I think there's a lot of people who either something's happened in their sex life, and I think it can often be women earlier on because you have children, things have happened to your body. You just physically, I think because women, you need to kind of be in the thing, right? Like men could have sex in a burning house at the drop of a hat, whereas women have to be kind of in the mood. Everything
For
has to be.
sure.
They're not the same. I mean, it's all this whole thing about responsive and desire, how desire works with men and women, right? And so I think that there's a period if you've had children and you're very busy, you're working or whatever, you just don't have space in your physical being.
Yeah.
Like you're so tired.
Yeah.
And it can, I mean, this is where lots of things can happen in marriages. And so maybe you just don't have the time, the space in your brain, the space in anything, your emotions. So you know the man's going off and you think, okay, well, at least he's getting it somewhere else. And so he'll be okay. I mean, obviously, I think that's very dangerous.
Well, I think that's just dumb. Like,
I
it's
think
also
it's
dumb for
dumb.
the guy to not be like, I want to divorce you because you're not giving me everything you want. I want.
Well,
not everything, but like sex is, in my little opinion,
yeah.
Sex is very important, especially in a marriage or in a relationship. And
Oh,
so
for
if
sure.
you are cheating on that person, it's never going to stop.
Look,
You
I
know?
could never do it.
Yes.
I could never do it because I think sex is the ultimate. It's the ultimate intimacy and connection. And if you kind of destroy that, to me, if I was in a relationship where that was happening, I just couldn't handle it. But I think that people sweep things under the rug. They're like, whatever. This is just easier. It's easier.
Yeah.
Like you've talked a lot about, why do people, like I keep asking you, why do people just not communicate? Why do they not talk? And you say to me, because it's easier to not talk. Now, I do understand that. I've been married 25 years or whatever it is, lived with him for 25 years, married 20, whatever. But a long time. And of course, the communication is an ongoing thing. It doesn't just go day one, unless you're both very good at communicating, which often one person's better at the other, more willing than the other. I mean, that's often the way.
One person's hornier than the other usually too.
Yeah, and one person can talk more easily, draw the other person out. Like, so you have to kind of work on it, right? And you have to both be willing to work on it and both accept fundamentally your flaws, like what you're not good at.
So what if, like, the woman, let's just say, does not want to have sex with their partner anymore? Does that man just shut down and say, okay, well, if you're not going to have sex with me, I guess I'm not going to have sex? Or does he go off and find someone who will have sex with him?
I think,
and then that is something you have to tolerate because you're not having sex with him.
100%. But I think there's a lot of women who do not fundamentally understand that. They do not understand that, yes, as a woman, you need sex.
Yeah.
But it's much easier for women to, what's the word? Like kind of bottle it up.
Yeah.
I mean, men is obviously more of an urgent need.
Yeah.
I think women can sort of deal with not having sex in a better way.
Can I also put my opinion on that a little bit? So, like, I think women, because for me, I mean, I feel like also I'm not just a sexual person. I actually really enjoy sex. I know a lot of women who don't actually enjoy sex.
Yeah.
Right? So, I think if more women enjoyed sex and knew more about how to have sex for their pleasure,
100%,
we'd see a lot more women wanting to have more sex with their partners, but men don't know how to fuck women properly, I think, for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a mixture of both. It's a mixture of people being mismatched. It's if you're not willing, like you said, this to be kind of open-minded, and to kind of try things and stuff like that. And and I've said this to you many times. I commend your confidence and the fact your ability. No, but it's a big thing, and most people don't have it. They don't feel that great about themselves, that great. And it's got nothing to do with the physicality of how good you look. It's they just don't feel that confident in their sexual appeal. You can see the most beautiful women who are just like sort of almost frigid, like cold, right?
Yeah.
They're not confident in their sex appeal. Sex appeal is much more than how you look.
Yeah.
It's your personality, how you come across. Like it's being confident is hugely appealing to people. And you have to, like you said, you enjoy it, you want it, blah, blah, blah. But I just think a lot of women do not understand that if they are going through a period of their life where they can't have sex. They don't want as much sex. They can't deal with it.
Mhm.
They're in pain because of physical changes after childbirth, any of those things,
Yeah.
which can last very long time. They just don't talk about it. They just say, well, you're just going to have to put up with it. But that's not what happens. That's
Yeah.
not real. That's not the way to deal with it. And if you're feeling something, you have to talk to your partner about it.
And it's funny because women are usually the ones who are better talkers, who
Yeah.
want to have most information. And then obviously, it's hard to talk about sex because you don't want to hurt the other person's feelings. And sex is a very sensitive topic, especially if you're not getting the right sex and you don't know how to ask for the right sex because you don't know what you're asking for, obviously.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are like that because you have to actually meet that person.
Mhm.
And I think I've said this before. My sort of first sexual encounters, I didn't meet the person who kind of made me feel good about myself. Whereas like my husband says he had the reverse experience.
Mm.
And so it kind of sends you on a trajectory of
Mhm.
how you feel about sex and
Yeah.
how you feel about interacting with people or relationships or any of the above. And I think that's just luck.
Yeah.
You're lucky if you draw the right person, isn't it? It's not about love. It's about somebody respecting you, wanting to take time with you, wanting to, perhaps when you're young, teach you or all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't have that, and it just sends them down this path.
Yeah.
And you just keep going down this path. And you never actually quite figure it out until very, very late on, because maybe you don't meet that person until quite far down the road. I think it's the weird thing about sex, and, hence this podcast, why we talk about it so much, is that why is the most natural thing in the world actually so difficult for so many people
Yeah.
that they cannot figure it out? Like the Hollywood movies, it's all like, it's all like hot and steamy, and they get it all works straight away, and
Yeah.
everyone's got it.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
And then, like, girl comes in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And it's so realistic.
and it's just so not
and just
true.
from the guy being on top and doing
Right.
missionary. Yeah. It's
Right.
really, really
Exactly.
realistic.
And, why do a lot of men not know that? Well, they don't know that because the woman hasn't told them that, or they
Yeah.
haven't been with women who found a way of nicely saying, let's try this or whatever.
Or sexy, dirty talk saying. You know what I mean? It's just like,
Well, yes, I can imagine you're very good at that.
let's just try.
Go
It's
on.
hard. I mean, it's like, I think a lot of women are so afraid to say what they want because they're afraid to say it in a bad way. And like, I'm one of those women because I hate hurting people's feelings and I hate confrontation. But if you say it in a dirty, sexy way while you're doing dirty, sexy stuff, it's going to come across a lot better and maybe more
Yeah, for sure.
exciting. And he's going
For
to want to
sure.
do it if it's turning you on more. Hopefully he wants to do it if that's the case. You know what I mean?
For sure. I mean, I think the other thing that we haven't talked about, I mean, obviously there are men who tolerate women having affairs, and not just with men.
Isn't that
obviously having-
cuckold thing though?
Only if they're watching.
Really? Okay.
They have to be watching.
They
I
have to be
believe.
watching.
Yeah,
Or isn't it like if they just know what's going on?
that's a very good question. Somebody's gonna have to tell us. I thought it was about watching.
No, it
Or
probably
being
is
into the whole
thing.
And I'm not talking about that.
Right,
I'm
so this
talking
isn't really
this is
into it.
This is
like
somebody tolerating
non-consensual like affairing going on.
I don't know about non-consensual, non-ethical. Like, you haven't really talked
Non-ethical,
about
yeah.
it. You're just
You know what's happening.
Yeah,
You know
you're
what's going
tolerating
on.
it, and you're sort of okay with it in a weird sense, which I think is psychologically super messed
So
up.
damaging.
Very damaging. And I think the other thing is, like, people, if you've been with somebody for a very long time, and particularly if you've had children, obviously your sex life is going to ebb and flow. It's going to
Mhm.
go in different directions at different points because you're a man. A man and a woman.
No,
Even
you're
if
a man.
not. I'm a man, yeah. But, it's going to change as you go along. And
Yeah.
you have to talk about that. Why are you feeling? What is the problem? What is the. And I think the other thing that particularly women don't talk about is if they're not happy with their body, causes all sorts
my God,
of
yes.
fucked up shit. And
Because even during the time of the month when I don't feel my sexiest, I'm like, please don't touch.
yeah. And
I
it's
do not want to have sex with you right
yeah,
now.
and it's very hard for men to understand how, like, you're in pain or you're really uncomfortable. I mean,
Mhm.
I still at my grand old age get very painful periods, and it's horrible.
Yeah.
And I've had them all my life, and my husband's been fully trained in this. Like, don't go anywhere near me.
Yeah.
Be very careful with me, because it is just
I don't wake the dragon.
Yeah, 100%. And you're just bloat, like your whole
Oh, yeah,
it's
you
feel
It's
horrible.
not great.
I mean, I know, but I think there's another thing that if you're in a relationship and you're not unhappy, but you're not sort of happy,
Yeah.
and if you're in any way angry, particularly I'm looking at this from a female point of view, if you're any way angry at a man,
Mhm.
you're angry because you don't think he's doing what he said he was going to do in life, whether that's professionally, as a father, as a
Mhm.
husband, as a whatever it is. You're angry in some form, right? There's a bit of rage going on, which I think is very common. And you don't talk about it. That rage builds,
Mhm.
and there is nothing like rage to turn off the sexual, like,
No, that's so true.
just don't want to go anywhere near you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm so, like, pissed off with you in a sense that it's sort of down deep in I haven't really
the
brought
deeply
it to
emotional sense of anger.
Yeah, I'm not really sort of screaming at you every day. I'm just disappointed, or I'm you're not, whatever it is, you're not doing what you said you do, or let's say chores in the house. This conversation seems to come up a lot, like men and women both working, but the women ends up doing more, and you've got rage about that. It could be the smallest thing, and that builds up, and it does not. It's like the sexual.
You don't want to fuck when you want when you're mad at your.
Well, it's like your desire tap just off. It's like, don't come
and it's not like it's like angry fucking, because that can be fun, but it's mostly like
no, it's not.
It's totally
like
different. It's like
you've had a
disappointed fucking. It's like it's like that's, you don't want to fuck that person. You're disgusted with them.
They are a total turn
off. Yeah,
you don't in your head know that.
Yes,
because you don't realize that. You just like push away. And there is a lot of that going on. And I think, and from men and from women, and I think, but probably, somebody's going to come at me, but probably mostly women, more percentage women. And if women feel like that, they're just like, I don't know what to do about it. I haven't actually processed or thought about the facts. I just don't want to touch you. I don't want to touch you. I don't want you to touch me.
Yeah.
So you just go off and do your thing.
And it's like, I
don't
know,
have to deal with it.
Yeah. I know a lot of guys, which is like, this is kind of bad, but like, I know a lot of guys who have cheated, are cheating on their girlfriends or their wives. And I mean, like, since I'm their friend, I'll know this. We'll talk about it, stuff like that. And it's like, unless the girlfriend or wife will say anything, they're just going to keep doing it. Like, it's just the way it is. He's not just going to come to some realization of like, oh, I've been a horrible person, I'm going to stop doing this. No, fuck no. He needs to get his dick wet. And that's what he's going to do until
100%.
you have a conversation of like, I know you're doing this, I'm going to divorce you if you don't stop. Or there like is some therapy going on, or like, there has to be some kind of like an ultimatum or something.
Yeah, what's the point?
What's the point of being in this relationship if you're not fucking each other?
I don't,
at the very least.
And especially in this day and age, like we started the episode talking about my grandmother, and that was a different time. She kind of had to stay married to him because financially, although she actually did work, my grandmother. But
really, but she didn't have her own bank account or anything like that.
I think maybe later on,
right?
But and obviously, long period she didn't work, and he mostly looked after her. But I mean, she was a bit of an old battle axe, but that's the other story. But in those days, you kind of were forced to. We don't live in that world anymore. Although divorcing and separating is incredibly difficult. It is probably the worst thing that will.
I'm not saying it's the first choice.
No.
But there's things that you should be thinking about if you know that the other person in this, like, who's sleeping beside you is also sleeping with someone else.
Well, 100%. And I do know people who are legally married, but they don't live in the same house. So they don't hate each other, but they don't want to be in a relationship.
Yeah.
But they stay legally married. So because of all their finances, and if they own businesses and properties and whatever, and they have children, but they live separate lives.
Right.
It's just easier financially if there's a lot of money involved, and they don't hate each other, but and their partners are sort of okay with it because they're sort of, it's later on in life and they don't really care. I mean, I would be okay with it, but that, whatever, we have to do what is right for us.
Yes, of course.
But I think there's a lot of tolyamory going on.
Tolyamory.
Do you like that
thing?
But I think, and men and women, maybe more women, but I think ultimately all it does is is create even more rage. I mean, all I hear today from young women is how, you know, men are assholes. They're all bastards. They're never gonna find a nice man. You know, blah 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 blah. And you're like, well, if you get into those kind of situations,
Yeah.
you know, there are just as many horrible women as men.
Oh, exactly. Like, I think it's obviously everyone's problem that everyone's a fucking, I don't know, narcissist nowadays.
Yeah.
Obviously, like with social media and all these things going on, with dating apps, it's so easy to cheat now too.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people's definitions of cheating are becoming a little bit more weird because it's not just like the old days where you didn't have like phones and texting and all these things that it's so easy to like get in touch with another person, where it's like, is phone sex cheating, or is what do we talk about today? Rub and tugs.
Oh, rub and tugs.
Is that cheating? Like for me, it's not.
Yeah.
Neither of those things, because it's like, well, is it like more emotional? I don't know. Like it just, there's things that I think people define as cheating that change in every single relationship. And so that's also really hard about it too.
I would 100% agree with that. And I can give you an example. Like, I've never, ever had an issue with, I don't know what the politically correct way of putting this, with titty bars.
Yeah.
You know.
Strippers? Strip club.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, you know.
Titty bar.
Titty bar, that's what we call them. That's very unpolitically correct. But that's what it is. Get your tits out. But.
Which bunch of pussies?
Was it?
What about pussies?
No. In England, we don't have the pussies.
Oh,
out.
really?
They're covered up. I mean, I don't know if there are places where they aren't, but generally,
got it.
As far as I know, they're covered up.
Very
I mean,
interesting.
it's not Amsterdam.
Sure.
You know, having live sex on stage.
There's like full on nudity here.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
Okay.
that's my understanding.
Okay, anyway, sorry. Go
but
ahead.
I've never, you know, like you go on like bachelor parties where you go to these, or like guys do, you know, go out. Yeah. Just to me, couldn't care less.
Right.
It does not faze me at all.
And you're like not the cheating queen, but like the anti-cheating queen.
Yeah, but that isn't, to me, that's not cheat. That's just like, well,
why is that not cheating for you? Just to like give the audience some
That's a very good question, because I don't think men looking at that, watching porn, masturbating, not with you, I don't have an issue with that.
Right.
You know, it's not like my husband goes to places, all, you know, titty bars.
Right, he's not like spending all of the money on the titty bar.
No, like, I mean, generally, and he would go tell me, it's generally, in the old days, they would, in a business context, that would happen a lot. You'd go, if you're taking a client out, depending on the client, you know, and like, you know, a bachelor party or some kind of stupid, but it just doesn't faze me at all. Whereas I can think of one bachelor party Max went to, and obviously I knew they were going to a titty bar, and he went to a titty bar for my wedding. All the guys I know, they all went there. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
And one guy, he was like, you cannot tell, it wasn't his wife then, but you cannot tell her. You cannot. She'll go crazy.
Wow.
And like a couple of months later, something sat down, we were talking about it, and she found out she went crazy. And he was on the sofa, literally sleeping on the sofa for like, it was months and months and months.
No.
And you're just like,
Get the fuck over
I
it.
don't understand it.
Like, it's not like a super, I don't know if they are addicted. Like, there are porn addictions, there are things that these happen.
Yeah, but men do this stuff.
Yes, exactly. Like, this isn't a problem.
And they're just watching. I also, like, you know, like Las Vegas, like you get, there's one hotel, I don't think they have it anymore. They used to have these dancers in, it's a Cosmopolitan hotel, it's a really nice hotel. And they had this bar and they had these cages.
Oh, yeah.
They weren't naked, but they were scantily clad and very sexy and blah, blah, blah. And you know, I remember being there with somebody and I thought, oh God, it was a woman. And she was just like, don't you think that's just awful? And you know, it's so disrespectful.
Probably getting paid thousands of dollars.
I'm like, no, all power to her. If she can do that, and she's got a body like that, and you know, I couldn't bloody do that at any point in my life. Why would I judge her? But I just don't have an issue with it at all.
Well, it's kind of the same with like some guys will think that sex toys for women It's cheating on them.
Yeah.
Which is fucking bullshit, boys. Like, that is
That's
unbelievable.
bizarre. Has anybody ever said that to you?
Not to me, because I would never be with a person like that. But I've seen that online, and like I've seen it like
That's mad.
it's ridiculous. It's like, this has nothing to do with you. This is about my pleasure. And like, if you can't handle a fucking vibrator, dude, like, your dick is not ready for this. You know? But like, it's if I was watching porn and a guy didn't like that I was watching porn, I'm like, fuck off.
Well, yeah. I mean, I remember sort of years ago, this woman I knew who I don't know why she confided in me. I didn't really know her that well. And she confided in me, like she said, her husband would watch porn and would masturbate, and she was horrified by it. And what should she do? And I didn't. I obviously stopped myself, and I was like, that's sort of completely normal.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, I'm not really understanding what your problem is. And then I sort of said to her, oh, so, you just try and ask questions to help. Like, so do you have a healthy, sex life? And the answer was no.
Okay.
You're like, so, well, why do you think he's doing it then? I mean, it's not like rocket science, is it?
Yeah. But then there you go. So then those things aren't cheating, let's say.
No, I don't
To
think
you.
so.
Obviously, everyone else has
To
another
me,
opinion.
it's another person is involved,
Okay, so
physically or
would that be like a texty
mentally.
text?
oh
A
yeah,
sexy text?
that wouldn't be cool.
That's cheating. And sexy pics. And then let's say OnlyFans.
Yeah, I mean,
Cheating.
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think it's cheating. OnlyFans, I think that's a bit of a stretch. What I do think is if you have a subscription to OnlyFans and you're not willing to share that with your partner, that you have
Yes,
got that,
for sure.
that's a bit odd. The thing I do think about OnlyFans, again, I'm not criticizing anybody who uses it or is on it, is that, you're generally on there because you're asking for specific things. And
Yes, very specific.
yeah. So why are you asking this person to do very specific things? I mean, if I was with somebody who was doing that, I'd just be like, I mean, that's not really that cool, is it? Because
Yeah.
there is an element there, and I know it's like a really thin line, and like, but that you're not obviously doing it for them.
Mm-hmm.
So why are they doing that
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing?
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think personally, like, that's not really cheating. I don't think, I definitely don't think going to strip clubs is cheating. I think a lot of people do that. I know a lot of women have been to strip clubs.
Yeah,
It's
I've been to
just,
a
like,
strip club. Who cares?
amusing. And especially like if you live in Europe, in Amsterdam,
Oh,
and there
yeah.
it's like
You
full
can't
on.
get away from it.
Yeah, it's
there.
like full on. And I just, no, I mean, I don't see the big deal. I really don't. But I think, again, that's my boundary and my level. And some people are aware. I mean, some women who are quite young that I know who have a problem if their guy watches porn.
Right.
Or they won't watch porn together. They think that's like horrendous. And you're like, what? So everyone's level is so all over the place. And then if you're in a couple where your level is like, I'm saying, like, I think this is completely normal, but they're like, ugh, you're disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
How do you, if you don't talk
No,
about
but
it,
that's
how do
exactly
you-
what I'm saying. It's like cheating is different for every single person. So like
I
if
think it
you
is.
and I think that's like something to think about with this like Tolyamory thing. It's like you're tolerating because you think it's cheating, but they don't think it's cheating also, right? So like he's like, well, I'm watching porn, and she's like, please don't watch porn, and he's like, well, I'm gonna do it anyways because it's not cheating to me, and she's
Yeah.
gonna tolerate that.
But I think mostly this is somebody going off and
Going off
having
and fucking
affairs.
everyone sometimes.
Yeah, because they're not being fulfilled.
But no, that is something to talk about with your partner. If this is a problem for you and you're tolerating maybe some habits that you're not liking, sexual habits or
I
not,
agree.
it's just like being like, hey, like, what's the line here? What do we think is the line for me? What is the line for you? And that's a kind of a cool, fun conversation to just like bring up. It doesn't have to be weird or awkward or mean or anything like that,
No.
judgmental. It's just like trying to find out better things about who you're
100%.
with.
But I mean, surely if you're living with somebody,
I know.
sleeping with somebody,
But people are fucked. People move in after like 3 months.
I
People
know.
fuck people so they don't even know. Like people get crazy with this shit now.
Yeah, well, they mistake lust for love.
Yes.
And they think, oh, and then it all goes wrong.
It all goes wrong, darling.
Oh, we could talk about this for hours.
I know.
Are we?
I really want to talk to you about we have this little new segment. What's the tea, girl? We want to talk about something else, something new that's going on that interests you today.
Mhm. Me.
this week. You specifically.
Right.
I obviously want
So
to know you.
it has nothing to do with what we've just talked about, but I'm seeing a lot of articles about Ozempic.
Okay.
And obviously a lot of people are taking Ozempic and pretending they're not taking Ozempic. And then you look at them and you know they're taking Ozempic.
like all the celebrities in the world.
Yeah, every celebrity. And the rise in particularly young women,
Mm-hmm.
because now it's quite easy to get a lot of this stuff online. And I'm not sure how much they're checking. I don't know. Somebody can tell me, like how easy it is to get or
I
not.
think it's different in every country.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I saw an ad yesterday in Toronto.
Yeah, they're all over Toronto.
Yeah. It was, I won't mention the company. I don't want to upset them. But, that was, and I, that was it was a big ad for that. And the woman in it was, needed to lose quite a few pounds kind of thing. And, that's what the ad was. And so it was pretty obvious. And so you're like, okay. But it's like in your face and it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And because we have this really, I think, in modern society, completely messed up thing about body image. Like we've gone to the extreme of the sort of Lizzo kind of thing. Yeah, it's fine to be 300 pounds if you're good with it.
Right.
And that's just fine because everyone's going to accept that.
It's like, let's just be healthy for whatever your size is.
I'm sorry, that isn't, like people judge you. And I do not think you should be doing anything crazy. Like I know so many young girls, or even when I was young, who were doing all these crazy diets, starving themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my generation too.
Yeah, be healthy. Be a healthy weight. Like everybody's weight goes up and down, particularly women because we're hormonal. Most women I know have gone up, 20, 30 pounds in their life, come back. I'm not saying that's healthy, but what I'm saying is most people go through a range.
Well, I think the whole thing about it is that like Ozempic is completely not healthy, right?
Well, that's the point.
Like,
and then,
this is not a part of a healthy diet unless you actually need this drug for diabetes because that's what it was originally used for, right?
Semaglutide or something. Tell me how to pronounce it. But yeah, it was. And the problem with it, from my understanding, is you take it, and I think it's very effective for people who've really struggled for years and years and years and years, and they have serious weight to lose. And so I think that's sort of where the origins are. But the problem is, of course, it makes you feel full, so you don't eat. So basically, you're not eating, which is why you lose weight.
Right.
It's really not. It's calories.
Is that what this is? Is that what's happening?
Yeah. But the problem is there are lots, which is sort of leading into like the articles that I've read. There's lots of side effects.
Yeah.
And so
I've heard of these.
Yeah, you can feel very nauseous. The other thing is diarrhea, which there was a story recently where somebody was at Gwyneth Paltrow's, one of her fancy parties in the Hamptons, and this person had like involuntary like diarrhea.
Oh, fuck.
And, like just ran off.
Not diarrhea in the middle of the fucking party and running away.
Yeah, I think it does happen. It's quite a common side effect.
Oh my God.
So
that is fucked up.
I mean, you think, God, that can't be worth it. And then I think there are all sorts of other things. I've heard of stories of women's, cycles, menstrual cycles being messed up.
Oh, yeah,
getting pregnant because they're messed up.
Pregnant?
Not from that, but because their cycle's messed up. It's messed up or whatever, or they got the dates because the cycle's messed up or whatever. But all sorts of weird things. And of course, the fundamental thing is if you this is not meant to be, from my understanding, a drug you take for the rest of your life.
No.
You're meant to take it to get the desired effect, then obviously change your lifestyle.
But then after you take it, you just gain the weight back.
Well, because you're eating nothing and then you're eating something.
Fucking starving.
So anybody on the planet, if you just eat nothing or eat a celery stick and then the next day you eat a cheese sandwich, obviously you're going to put on weight. Even if you're eating less, you're going to put on weight. I mean, it's just,
I know, like, that's the thing. Like, it's hard because I have one friend who I know that's taken it and she is super happy. She looks great. And I think she's still on it. But I mean, like, who knows what's going to happen when she's off of it. And I mean, like, obviously you see all these people who are like, breaking the stigma of like Ozempic and like we're on it and it's good.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, like I'm loving that you're taking,
action
for your health if you think that's what this is. But I think a lot of people take it too far and then they reverse the results when they have to get off of it. Because like you said, it's not a forever solution.
No.
This stuff is like you have to start eating, right? If these are like things that these are their goals that you want to have, it's like eating is the biggest part. They always say that. Any kind of personal trainer and nutritionist is like, you can work out all you want, but if you're eating like shit, it's not gonna.
It's not going to
thing.
make any. Yeah, exactly.
Which I know that I fucking love to eat, and
It's
it's
not gonna make any-
upsetting.
Yeah, it's not going to make any difference.
Yeah.
And I think that we've got to this point. Like when I was younger, everyone would say to you, if you were fat, you're fat. Like people were people like parent, like family, whatever, were much more upfront. Nobody was
Right.
dancing around it.
No, yeah.
Lose 40 pounds. And then we sort of gone into this body positivity thing. But I think what we lost in the body positivity is that nobody should be doing crazy stuff. And you don't have to look like something unattainable like Gwyneth Paltrow, who is very willowy and thin and has 15 chefs and probably is genetically thinner and whatever.
Yeah, of course.
But there's lots of other healthy role models who are like a healthy weight, who look good, who are not super thin and not overweight.
Yeah.
And just kind of look healthy and normal. And that would be the thing to, strive to.
You hope that people would want to strive to that more.
And that this but I don't think in sort of fighting that, we've said, no, you should be happy. If you're happy with yourself at 300 pounds, but you're not, you're not.
It's just health-wise. It's like, don't you want to feel like you could fucking climb a flight of stairs?
Well, 100%. If you're 300 pounds, it affects everything. And a young woman, you are going to have problems with your cycle. If you want to have children, you're going to have problems with that. You're going to have problems with you're going to have problems with everything.
Yeah.
And I hate to break it to you, everyone. And certainly saying this is not the thinnest person in the world, people look at you and they judge you.
Yeah.
And, and you strive and you do your best. And certainly, I'm 51. It's a different thing to being younger.
Mm-hmm.
But, you got to, I don't know, we're just in this sort of silly, sort of non-realistic thing. And so people take Ozempic because it's a quick fix.
Mm-hmm. Ugh, and quick fixes have been there for forever.
100%.
Do you remember was it Anna Nicole Smith who did that whole there was one of these things in I'm aging myself. This is in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
But there's all these box treatments, and it was the very kind of anorexic zone where everyone on the page was anorexic, or they were oh, Britney Spears has gained 10 pounds. Doesn't she look disgusting?
Yeah, which
and
is
it's
just
oh
absurd.
my god! Looking back at that now, obviously I'm holy shit. But at that point. But that's where we've become from up this.
100%.
And now it's we're obviously on that opposite side because everything always happens in extremes.
100%.
And then it can
yeah, because nobody's talking about 10 pounds, which is, many women will, fluctuate.
No, of course.
And I think the other thing about Ozempic, I can always tell if somebody's taking it because they tend to, it always goes too far and they always get too thin. Because they get too thin because I'm going to say again, not a medical professional, but in my analysis of it, I think because you literally go from eating to not eating at all or eating very, very little, you're obviously going to lose tons and tons of weight, and you're going to lose way more than you wanted to or thought you were going to do, which is why you get the bobblehead syndrome. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
The bobbleheads, those things that it's an American...
Small bodies, big heads?
No, it's a North American thing. So
I know what a bobblehead is.
European wouldn't know what I'm talking about. The sports, and the head's much bigger than the body. Yeah. And that's what it looks like. The person's head looks way bigger because their body's got so thin.
Right.
Their head looks completely bizarre. But yeah, it's not a long-term thing. But the thing, going back to my thing that I've been reading, is that young women are going into emergency rooms or private clinics or doctors or whatever with all these weird symptoms.
Ew.
From the diarrhea to the menstrual cycle to the nausea and you're like, stop taking it.
Yeah, I know. I heard about a really weird one where it's I remember reading about it, and it's people who are needing a surgery or something like that or having surgery,
right,
and they're on Ozempic and they don't eat. They haven't been eating because they're having a surgery, and so you don't eat before your surgery. Obviously, everyone knows that who's had a surgery before. And they go under the knife, and there's food still in their stomach from before.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and so I've heard that that's a thing, and so obviously they can't do the surgery. It's it's fucking things up that we have no idea about.
Yeah.
And then we're only obviously finding these things out for ridiculous reasons.
Yeah.
So there's things that we don't even know that. Obviously, we're finding out now more, but there's probably things that we won't find out for another 10 years at least.
No, it's like
20
any
years.
of these things.
Yeah, it's crazy. So
And-
just if you are on it, like, there's no shame in being on medication, obviously.
No, you
But
do
there's-
whatever you need to do.
But it's just like, just literally, we have to not believe that these things don't cause any issues, right? Like, there are always side effects with medications, no matter what you're taking,
Well, it's
even
not
faulty
magic.
vitamins.
yeah, it's not magic.
Yeah.
And, it's basically making you feel like you don't want to eat, making you feel full, whatever. I mean, you have a gastric band or whatever, it's making your stomach smaller. You don't want to eat. It's the same thing, but it's taking it, if you need to lose a serious amount of weight, and by a serious amount of weight, I'm not talking about 20 pounds.
Mhm.
I'm talking about 30 pounds. I'm talking about 50, 60, 8, like huge amounts of weight. Then obviously, if you're struggling, that seems like a very good idea,
Mhm.
because you have to break the cycle.
Mhm.
And I think one of the reasons, people go on diets, and particularly women, men lose weight faster than women.
Mhm.
And if you don't see the results quick enough, you just get disheartened and you go back to it.
Yeah,
right?
fuck yeah, that happens to everyone.
Right. So you do something
Like
that's
any
dramatic,
habit.
it gets you, going kind of thing.
Yeah.
And but obviously, yeah, you have to change your lifestyle dramatically. But if you're 20 pounds overweight, you make a few changes, you'll probably lose, especially if you're young, you're going to lose. You're older, it's much harder. But like anything, there are huge consequences. And I'm not in any way belittling it. I totally understand. I'm a short person. I've struggled, I've struggled with weight
Yeah.
all my life. And I think, in sort of varying degrees. And, I've never been massively overweight, but I've struggled. And I understand the mental, the physical, so I understand why you would take Ozempic. All I'm saying is there are obviously a lot of side effects, and you might want to think about those. And that, I mean, I thought one time you see people and they're taking Ozempic.
Yeah.
But I know I'm somebody who feels very like nauseous and very bloated so I just know it would totally fuck me up.
Fuck you up.
And also it's just not a solution, because then you got to come off it.
Yeah.
And
It's just it's just a cycle. Just think twice if you want to be doing
Yeah.
it.
And it's just, it just to me, because it's specifically young women who are very affected by this and the pressure. And this, by the way, is nothing new.
No, it's
Women have always, I think young women think this is a new thing, the pressure to be skinny. I'm like, oh my God.
not. No,
In
Gen Z
my
thinks it's a
era,
new thing.
it's like
Exactly.
the pressure was a massive.
because your family would actually say something
Yeah.
to you,
And-
or like
Oh,
other
yeah.
people.
They would say things to you.
People don't
put
say
you
shit
on a
to you
diet.
anymore.
No, they don't say
They don't
anything.
say anything.
The doctor doesn't
Your
say
I
anything.
was just gonna say your doctor doesn't even say anything. It's like no. There was like immense pressure to be like underweight.
100%.
That's what it was.
That was the
It wasn't
pressure.
healthy. It was
It
like
was
you
the
needed to
pressure.
be underweight if you wanted to be anywhere of good looking
100%.
or like
Yeah. I mean,
healthy
when I was
in a doctor's mind.
100%. When I was young, it was like you would drink your calories. Like if you were going out
Yes.
on Saturday or Friday night, you wouldn't eat
Yeah.
so that you could drink the calories. But
Yeah.
you figured out, so you literally ate nothing
Yeah.
for like Friday and Saturday, and you drank calories.
Yeah.
And you're just like, which obviously is horrendous.
No, I remember weighing my food at like 16. Like,
Yeah.
it's just
And
like you don't need to do that. There's like you just have to be healthy.
Yeah.
And I'm understanding that now, obviously, but I think a lot of young women, because of social media, has made it way worse. There's a huge amount of pressure of that
Absolutely.
way of just like, oh my God, I see all these hot girls who are all fake, obviously, most part. And how are they like that? Oh my God, they're on Ozempic. Oh my God, I'm gonna be on Ozempic. It's
Yeah.
like fuck.
No. Anyway,
Oh,
so that's
guys.
that. That's the tea.
That's a tea, guys. That was a lot.
That was a lot of tea.
That was a lot of tea. That was a lot of diet tea.
That was a lot of diet tea.
No.
I've had that too.
Oh God, it makes you shit like you never
Yeah.
believe.
It hurts your stomach. Yeah.
Okay, well, guys, if you've been on Ozempic, if you've had what was it again, Tolyamory,
Tolyamory.
Polyamory.
Yeah.
If you guys are in a polyamory relationship, or you guys are on
Tolyamorous.
Tolyamorous relationship,
Yeah.
you guys are on Ozempic, you guys know someone who either of these things have happened to or doing, whatever you want to talk to us about. We'd love to hear from you guys and your opinion on everything, because this is a crazy little time we're in.
It is mad.
Polyamory,
Just
Ozempic,
love yourself. Love yourself.
cabbage
you know?
soup. It's the whole thing.
Try and have a higher opinion of yourself.
It's too
I'm
hard.
still trying to do that.
I just get my rocks off by other people's opinions of me. So
Oh, right.
that's why we're going to ask you guys for 5 stars of review on this. All right. Love you guys so much.
Till next time.
Sharing My Truth Pod is so excited to partner with Vibrator.com, where the A in vibrator is the number 8. This is an extremely exclusive code where no other podcast has it. If you go to Vibrator.com right now, use the code MS15, that's MS15 at Vibrator.com. You can now get 15% off anything in store. That's any sex toys for you, your partner, your neighbor, your mom. We don't judge. We don't care. Get it now. Go to the link in our bio, put in the code, and get jiggy with it.
Thanks so much for listening. Please rate and review this podcast and follow us on social at Sharing My Truth Pod, and leave us a voicemail on our website, sharingmytruth.com, to share your stories and experiences with us. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.